Hello, hello. Just double checking to make sure we're alive because sometimes it records me sooner than intended. Um, so let me double check that I'm live. Yay! Okay, cool. We are active and live. Hey, everyone. So go ahead and tag everyone. Makes it easier than tagging people individually. But happy Thursday, and today is our day 4 of our Move to Love You challenge. I'm so excited to be here, and I'd love to hear from you guys. How is this challenge going for you so far? Have you learned anything new? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you had any takeaways so far? Yesterday we talked about our emotions, and so I felt it was, a good place to flow for us to talk about our relationship to food today. Especially since if you perhaps struggle with some of your body image, with a negative body image, that perhaps you struggle with emotional eating. So I thought today would be a really good segue into our relationship to food. Hola, Amy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning. And I'm going to take my glasses off because I can see my glare and I don't need them right now. I mostly need them to read. But yeah, let me know, where are y'all located? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're from. I live in Texas, in case y'all didn't know that yet. And you've probably seen me in various different seasons this week because we are in a very weird time of the year where we have days where it feels cold and then we have days where it gets hot as hell. So like you've seen me in t-shirts, and today it's cold and rainy outside. So yeah, it's kind of crazy weather we have here in Texas. Mom's in Dallas. Well, Mom, you're in Coppell technically. Amy's in Illinois, she says, unfortunately. But yeah, drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're joining us from. I love hearing that. So Amy, yeah, you're probably even colder than we are. I don't know how when it starts to transition into spring for you guys. We're in that funky time frame where it could go either way for us. So like we have to dress accordingly and layer up because it can be really cold in the mornings and then it warms up later. And so yeah, we've got some pretty crazy weather here. But all right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about our relationship to food, and maybe we'll start by asking you guys, like, what is your relationship to food like? Let us know in the comments. Have you felt like you've got a peaceful relationship with food, or do you feel like it's kind of a challenging relationship? How would we call that? When we don't quite, have a very peaceful relationship with food. Let's see. It doesn't really every day is a surprise with weather in Illinois. Okay, I hear you. And thank you for amazing learnings this week, realizing and accepting and even challenging myself. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was meant for. But yeah, a little background for me. I mentioned on Monday, I grew up with a lot of body image insecurities, and I've led a large portion of my life very unhappy with my body and having a very challenging relationship with food. And I think I believe that I talked about it a little bit on Monday, that I believed a lot of this stemmed from, my body image stuff, as well as being uprooted from everything that I knew and brought to Texas, at a relatively young age. I was a teenager, but not having, the same familiar family gatherings that I used to have. I ultimately became a latchkey kid and started coping with my emotions with food. And I think my issues with food started even younger. But that's kind of when I started noticing having, a bit of an eating disorder, or leaning towards, possibly having one, which really, really took a peak in my mid-20s. When my mom was going through breast cancer, and I felt this was probably the time of my life where I felt most out of control. And I felt like the only thing that I could control was the size of my body. And unfortunately, it led me down the path of having an eating disorder. And I struggled with bulimia for about a part of like a decade, maybe a few years, more or less, something like that. And I'm thankful to say I feel pretty recovered from that. I don't binge and purge like I used to, and I really owe that to this path of self-love as well as intuitive eating, mindful eating, and just overall healing my relationship with myself as well as healing my relationship and making peace with food. And so that's why I find this topic to be very, very supportive, as well as I'm passionate about it. So I talked a little bit about it on Tuesday as well when we, dived into the topic of our relationship with exercise. I can't help but also, kind of talk about food because those are the two things that our society says. If you exercise right and you eat the right foods, then you're going to get the body that you want and that you desire and that you are worthy of, and unfortunately, from my own experience and talking to hundreds of women, this isn't the case for everybody. And I mentioned it on Tuesday as well, that there's many different factors that go into our health. There's many different factors that go into our weight that aren't solely based on what we eat and how much we exercise. And so how do you approach food from the lens of self-love, self-acceptance, self-appreciation, self-care versus self-destruction, self-loathing, self-rejection, and, like just being unhappy with yourself, right? Because again, what I personally, and why I don't advocate for diet culture and dieting in general personally, is because it disconnects us from our own intuition. It disconnects us from our bodies. It basically says, I cannot trust my body. I have to follow the guidelines of what someone else is telling me in order for me to be able to eat, in order for me to be able to get the body that I want, in order, X, Y, or Z, whatever goals I want to accomplish. I can't trust myself. I have to seek outside of myself in order to have a relationship with food or in order to eat. Right. And so that's why I personally don't advocate for that. Now, that's not to say that, that's your journey. Maybe you are someone who's still continuously wanting to lose weight. I'm not here to judge that. I've just personally found that 95% of diets don't work. And so they can often lead to eating disorders. They can often lead to body dysmorphia. And so I don't advocate for them personally. And so even if you are on the path towards losing weight, or you're done with, yo-yo dieting, you're done with weight cycling, you're done with binge eating, you're done with having a tumultuous relationship with food, whichever side you fall on, this can still apply to you, and you can still apply some of these guidelines, so that you can start to slowly make peace with food. Because if you think about it, I'd love for you to drop in the comments and let me know, how much does thinking about food consume you? Like, how much do you think about what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat? How much, then we go into the exercise, how much to exercise, all of that stuff. Like, and you're looking for these set guidelines and rules to tell you exactly how much you need in order to get the expected results that you're wanting, right? Drop it in the comments. Let me know, how much mental space does food consume for you, right? Because I know for me personally, like, it took all of my time and all of my energy, and I was constantly always thinking about, okay, well, what should I eat? I want to eat this, but maybe that's not the best thing for me. Should I eat this instead? Oh, but I don't really want to eat that. That doesn't really sound good. So and it's just like this constant freaking war that we have with ourselves over what to eat, which, guys, what to eat is how we fuel ourselves. It's how we give ourselves energy. It's how we move throughout our day to day. It should not cause so much stress to figure out what the F to eat, right? So let me see. Oh Lord, all the time, too much. Yes. And so personally, why I love intuitive eating, why I love this path and this journey, is because it ultimately leads us to having a more peaceful relationship with food, where it's not consuming your mental space all the effing time. Okay, so consider that the way that the relationship that you have with food right now is so all-consuming and so stressful. And, if you follow a little bit more of an intuitive eating guideline, which is really just guiding ourselves back to our bodies, because our bodies, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the week, our body has an innate wisdom, right? Our body says, hey, I'm thirsty, right? When we start to get those signals in our mouth of dryness, maybe we've actually gone a little too much without water, right? It says, hey, I am thirsty. I need water. Same thing goes with food. Hey, I need food. I'm hungry, right? You start to get the hunger pangs, et cetera, et cetera. And so our body just has this wisdom, and it also has the wisdom of like, hey, these are perhaps the foods that you may want to be eating right now, right? It has this innate wisdom to tell you, this is what I need. But unfortunately, we've been so far disconnected from eating, and we've been told that we are not to trust our bodies. Because if you trust your body, you're just going to overeat. But unfortunately, that's actually the opposite of it. The reason we overeat is because we're not trusting our bodies. So if you can think of it that way, right? So intuitive eating sends us on the path, and it's a journey. It's not like we're replacing one set of rules for another set of rules. It's honestly breaking up with the set of rules that we've developed around our eating in the first place, right? And tell me in the comments if this is landing for you, like this constant stress that you find over what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, all of this stuff is all consuming your mind, and wanting something that's a little easier, that's not so all consuming, that's not so stressful, that can bring peace, liberation, and freedom to your mind, to your body, to your heart, to your day to day, right? Because again, I find that diet culture and the ways that we normally approach food, health, and wellness is, if it's creating stress, it's not health. Because I'm here to tell you, like, anything that compromises our nervous system, anything that causes stress is going the opposite direction, right? We cannot heal ever if we are stressed. If our nervous system is compromised and it is stressed, we can never heal. So that's why I'm such a huge advocate of this. And I've been on the intuitive eating journey for about 5 years now. I'm 5 years right around here, because I started right before my wedding. Actually, I completely broke up with dieting right before I was finding my dress to get married. Okay. And this is usually the time when most brides are like, oh, I need to fit in a dress. I need to eat all the right foods. I've got to starve myself in order to make sure that I fit this freaking dress. And I decided, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to find a dress that I like, that I feel comfortable in, that I feel beautiful in now, that I don't have to work for, right? That I don't have to mold my body for. And that's what I did. And so I'm 5 years into my own bulimia eating disorder recovery, and I'm on the other side, and I'm here as proof that it is possible. It is possible to make peace with food. It is possible to make peace with your body, in your mind, and your heart, and your body, and your energy, right? And so that's why I love this path. That's why I love this journey. And it's a journey, right? Again, we're not replacing rules with more rules, but we are following some guidelines if we go down the intuitive eating route. And again, take what works. Take what resonates with you most, right? Let me see. Am I missing anything in the comments? Yeah, Leslie says constantly give me all the info. I hear you, girl. Oh, Leslie, now I realized that I recognized your face and your name from last night's class. I was like, wait, I think I've seen her before, and now it's because you joined my group. So great to have you here as well. My mom says it does. However, I started intermittent eating, and after a month, I'm not obsessed with eating at night anymore. Surprisingly, sometimes I feel the hunger, but I'm able to overpass it because I don't feel the obsession. I can't believe it myself. Yeah, okay. That's an interesting perspective, Mom. I'm glad that you feel that way. I have a little bit of my own challenges with intermittent eating and intermittent fasting, which is what I think you're referring to. Because if you are denying yourself hunger, like if you're saying, oh, I'm not going to eat at this time frame because I'm not supposed to, then you're still following rules. And unfortunately, when we're still following rules, we're not listening to our bodies. So if you're denying yourself food when your body says it's hungry, then you could still run into some issues there. But again, do what works for you. I'm not here to preach anything. I'm simply here to share what has worked for me and what this process looks like. Okay, so I'm quickly going to go through some of the principles of intuitive eating just so that you can start to get your wheels spinning and wheels turning around this subject. So the first and foremost, the first principle of intuitive eating is to reject the diet mentality, which means breaking up with diet culture. This principle involves throwing out the diet books and articles that offer false hope of losing weight quickly and easily permanently. It encourages you to get angry at diet culture and promotes weight loss and to recognize the damage that diets cause. Because most diets lead us towards eating disorders, you know, maybe not eating disorders, but disordered eating, right? Which is a path towards eating disorders. Okay, so the first step, rejecting diet culture and rejecting diet mentality. And this can sometimes cause some emotions, which is why we covered emotions yesterday. It can cause a little bit of anger when you realize how you've been fed this lie, which I kind of talked about on Monday, that diets work for everybody when they only work for like maybe 5% of people, right? 5% of our culture. That's a small scale of people. Right? 95% of people do not have success with diets. If they did, we would all be on the bandwagon. We would all have perfect bodies. We would all be thin. But that's not the truth, you guys. Yet we've been fed this lie. Why? Because they want you to continue buying their products. They want you to continue suffering. They want you to continue coming back. That is why they do it. That is why, because it does not work. And they know it. They know it. Okay? I'll get off my soapbox on that one. Number 2, which is really, really important, and this is why, Mom, I was talking about why intermittent fasting can sometimes be dangerous. Honor your hunger. Honor your hunger. If you are hungry, eat, right? And there's also this scale that is shown, the hunger scale, which sometimes can be from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, where you really start to connect with your body to figure out what hunger feels like, what hunger looks like in your body. Because oftentimes, again, when we're stuck in diet culture, when we're intermittent fasting, when we're doing these restrictive diets, we're not listening to our body's hunger cues, right? And there's a difference between hunger cues and emotional eating, right? If we're just emotionally eating, that's not necessarily following your body's guidance on its hunger cues, okay? So your body's biological, and this is also the thing. When we don't give ourselves the food and nourishment that we need, we may end up binging later. Okay, and I've found this to be true on the days that I've accidentally been intermittent fasting because I have not been eating. Like then later on in the day, like when it comes to the point where I eat, I end up eating a little bit more because my body biologically says, I didn't eat enough throughout the day. I need a little bit more. Right? And if that leads to a little bit of weight gain, then that just means, hey, that's what your body needs right here, right now to get through whatever it is that you're going through. This could be perimenopause, menopause, or just your age or this kind of thing, right? Our body has its own wisdom, right? So that's number 2, honor your hunger. Number 3, make peace with food. Right? So giving yourself unconditional permission to eat. Banning certain foods can often lead to intense feelings of deprivation that lead to uncomfortable cravings and often binging. Again, because we're not listening to our hunger cues and we're depriving ourselves from the things that we really want to eat. So making peace with food. Oh, I don't know why I got globes. Celebrating making peace with food because it's so incredibly helpful, you guys. And we often think if I give myself permission to eat food, I'm just going to eat all the foods forever. But I promise you, that's not what happens. There is some time, like I think it probably took me about 2 or 3 years of giving myself full permission of eating everything. And I don't mean everything, but like the things that I want to eat at that time, right? But then eventually, like if I'm eating all of these foods, like the pizzas, the macaroni and cheese, all of the foods that I would used to deprive myself from, eventually my body's like, ugh, I don't want to eat those things anymore. And I challenge you by doing something like this. Try to eat pizza 3 or 4 days in a row. And I can guarantee you, even by that 3rd day, you're like, oh, I don't want to eat pizza anymore, right? Your body starts to reject things. It can even happen with candy or with sweets. Like if you really consciously start to intuitively connect to your body and how your body feels after eating certain foods, you're like, maybe I could use a smoothie or a salad or some veggies or some fruit instead today, eventually your body starts to speak up, but you've got to be connected with it in order to get there, right? And that's what a lot of these, this process kind of gets you through. All right, and then Let's see, what is next? Challenge the food police. Scream aloud no to the thoughts in your head that declare that you're good for eating minimal calories or bad because you ate a piece of chocolate cake. So this is removing our morals with food. You are good regardless of what you eat. You are good inherently and worthy regardless of what you weigh. You are good inherently and worthy regardless of what you look like. And so that's what this is doing. It's removing our morality from food. Does that make sense? And let me know in the comments if this is making sense or if it doesn't. And that's the same thing with body positivity. It is basically saying that our morals have nothing to do with the way we look, what we eat, or anything like that. Our value does not decrease or increase based on what we eat or the way that we look. Right? We are not good and we are not bad regardless of what we ate. Okay? And the way that I challenge that you look at this is like, think of someone who's unhealthy, but it's not necessarily something that they got themselves to, right? It's just something that happened, right? They're unhealthy. Do you think they are less of a person because they are unhealthy? No, they're just as worthy. Right? Maybe in the back of your mind, you think, oh, maybe if I'm unhealthy, I'm unworthy. But I'm trying to help you disconnect and break up from that kind of mentality that you are worthy and you are enough, regardless of whether you are healthy or whether you are what you ate or how you look or the way what you weigh. Your worth is not dependent on these things. You are worthy just because you exist. So that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to bridge that gap between you thinking the only way I am loving, I am accepting, I am worthy, I am enough is if I eat good and if I weigh a certain size or if I look a certain way. I want you to start shifting your perspective on that, because your worth is not dependent on the way that you look, your size, what you weigh, or what you eat. Okay, so you are not good if you eat vegetables, fruits, or a certain amount of calories, or only during the day and not during the night, or even if you emotionally eat, right? Does not impact your worth. You might think it does because you've been conditioned to think that way. And I am here to scream at the rooftops and remind you that your worth is not dependent on this. And I changed the tone of my voice because that's how freaking passionate I am about this, right? All right, so that's challenging the food police. Really pay attention to when you're saying you're good or bad based on what you eat. Challenge that. Number 5, respect your fullness. So this goes back to that hunger scale. Listening to the body signals that tell you that you're no longer hungry, observing the signs that show you that you're comfortably full, pausing in the middle of eating and asking yourself how the food tastes and what your current hunger level is. This is almost practicing mindful eating, which mindful eating is different from intuitive eating, right? It's just being more aware and being more present with the way that you feel and, how food makes you feel, whether you're hungry, whether you're not, whether you're full, whether maybe you ate too much. And even if you did eat too much, not beating yourself up over it. Because again, your worth is not dependent on how much you ate or how little you ate, okay? So I know this is a big shift in perspective, but let me know if this is making sense. Number 6, discover the satisfaction factor. Japanese have the wisdom to promote pleasure as one of the goals of healthy living. When you eat what you really want in an environment that is inviting, in an environment that is peaceful, the pleasure you derive will be a powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. So whether or not you eat the fruits, the vegetables, the foods that are considered, yes, more nourishing to the body versus when you eat what I considered soul nourishing foods, which are the foods that are just tasty, the processed foods that perhaps you keep hearing over and over are considered trash, right? But if that feels good to you and that feels like soul nourishing and that feels yummy, then freaking eat it and enjoy it versus eating it with guilt. Because when you're eating with guilt, you are adding the layer of toxicity energetically that is more toxic than the food you're eating in the first place. So intuitive eating really helps us remove the relationship that we have with punishing ourselves, with guilting ourselves, with shaming ourselves, right? Because shame and guilt should not be served with your food. And if it is, then you're just making yourself feel shitty for no reason. or more so, because maybe you felt crappy for what you ate because it didn't feel good in your body. And then you're adding on another layer on top of that of shaming and guilting yourself in the process, which is more destructive to your energy, right? And then number 7, honor your feelings without using food. And this is why we talked about our emotions yesterday, right? If you are the type of person that, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to emotionally eat. I'm not saying that, because think about how food can be used for pleasure, just like we talked about, right? We use it in celebrations and weddings and, birthdays. We eat the cakes and stuff like that. Like, we can use food as celebration. And yes, we can also use food to cope with some of our emotions. Like, think of how the first thing that people do when somebody passes is we offer food, right? Because we want to nourish that person and make sure that they're staying nourished. Because oftentimes when we're in grief, the last thing we want to think about is cooking or eating, but we know we have to, right? In order to keep our energy up, in order to keep going, right? So it's okay to emotionally eat. The moment it becomes a problem is if that's all you're constantly doing and that's all you're using to cope with your emotions, which is why it was really important to cover emotional, ways that you can, process and accept and really connect with your emotions and let them flow, seeing them as energy and motion, so that you're not having to emotionally eat as much. You know what I mean? Let me see, am I missing some stuff in the comments? All the events, yeah, it involves food, but Mom, it doesn't need that face, because like, food is something that can be pleasurable. Food is okay. Food is okay. Food is neutral. Food doesn't have to be good or bad. Food just is, right? And again, that's just what intuitive eating helps us to release and reduce the intensity that we feel of, oh, bad foods, I'm bad. All of these labels, all of these freaking rules, right? So honor your feelings without using food, while also realizing that emotional eating happens and we don't need to beat ourselves up over it. Number 8, respect your body. Accept your genetic blueprint. Just as a person with a shoe size of 8 would not be expected to realistically squeeze into a size 6, our feet don't change necessarily, right? It is equally futile and uncomfortable to have a similar expectation about body size. Respect your body so that you can feel better about who you are. And this is where self-acceptance comes in, right? Same with our height. Do you expect someone that's 5'2" to all of a sudden be like, I want to be a 5'5" so bad, and expect that you get there and then you're, like, I'm stretching myself so much so that I can be a 5'5"? But is that realistic, right? And I know that some people can see this as different, no, because we can control our body size, right? But remember, there's so many factors that go into weight, and what this goal of constantly trying to make ourselves smaller and constantly trying to lose more weight is just keeping us at war with ourselves and keeping us disconnected from our bodies, right? And the last 2 principles are number 9, exercise. Feel the difference with joyful movement, right? We talked about this on Tuesday. Forget militant exercise, those toxic rules around exercise. It has to be hard. It has to be an hour. You have to exercise 3 to 5 days a week. If you don't feel a burn, you're not doing it correctly. If you're not sweating, you're not doing anything. Getting rid of those rules and just get active and feel the difference. Shift your focus to how it feels to move your body rather than the calorie burning effect of exercise. If you focus on how you feel from working out, such as energized, it can make a difference between rolling out of bed for a brisk walk or hitting the snooze alarm, right? Like, if we start focusing, and I talked about this on Tuesday when we talked about movement, if we start focusing on all the other things that exercise provides us, because it provides us with so many factors, so many other benefits other than just weight loss, if we focus on those things and we focus on finding movement that we enjoy, that we can actually show up for because it feels good, then you're actually going to start making, strides in your own health. And maybe, you might lose some weight, but if you get rid of that being the sole goal why you work out, and you start to see these other benefits that you get out of it, like, you get more energy, you're able to move your joints a little better, you feel less pain in your body, you can get stronger, your oxygen levels boost, your cardio levels boost, your There's so many benefits that movement offers us aside from just weight loss. But yet we've been trained. That's why we should work out, is to make ourselves smaller, is to start losing weight, right? So let me know in the comments, how's this landing for you guys? Yep. Looks like people are agreeing. All right. And lastly, number 10. Now it really helps to make sure that you've really been going through the process and the journey of intuitive eating before you slap on number 10, right? Because I've personally found that the times that I try to focus on nutrition before having done any of this work has led me down the path of, having a tumultuous relationship with food. And again, it really does help to go through steps 1 through 9 before you go to 10. Number 10 is honor your health with gentle nutrition. So what does that look like? Once you've broken up with all of the other rules and you've really started to connect with your body, you can start to make food choices that honor your health and taste buds while making you feel good, right? Now remember that you don't have to eat a perfect diet to be healthy. It's what you eat consistently over time that matters. Progress, not perfection, is what counts, right? And I think we often get into this mindset of all or nothing, right? And that's another myth that we need to break up with. Things don't have to be all or nothing, right? You can take little steps here and there. You can, we think consistency is, I got to do it every day. But consistency looks like, okay, I did a little bit today. I might do more tomorrow. The next day I may do a little less, but that next day, maybe I take a day break or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, consistently looks different for everybody, but you got to figure out what works for you. And a lot of this comes back down to what is best for me and my body. Because we think, oh, if I eat this certain way and if I, do these certain exercises, I'm going to look like that person over there. And then we get disappointed because we don't end up looking like that other person. And our body isn't necessarily changing in the speed that we want it to. And then we get defeated. And so then we think, well, there's a problem with me. But there's not a problem with you. There's not a problem with your body. The problem is that you've disconnected from your body. So, whew, I need to take a breath. We're at 32 minutes and I didn't plan on going exactly. Like, celebrate your little small victories and your little small wins. And you guys, let go of the perfection mentality, the all or nothing mentality. It is actually ruining your progress. It's actually ruining your health. It's causing more stress, right? So those are the 10 principles of intuitive eating. And this is how I personally view that you can start to mend your relationship with food, to make more peace with food, make more peace with your body, to make more peace with movement. Because like I said before, we cannot expect to heal if we're stressed. And diets are typically stressful and they don't work and they don't help us heal. So, however, if you find that it doesn't cause you stress and it's helpful for you, then keep on trucking. Maybe this video isn't for you. But for those of us that are sick and tired of being on the hamster wheel and feeling frustrated and feeling defeated time and time again after starting diets after diets every Monday and doing what we can to change our bodies and not seeing the results that we want, if you're feeling like you're done with all of that, then I highly recommend that you start seeking the support of intuitive eating. And I will disclaim, I am not a nutritionist, right? I'm not here to tell you how much to eat, what you should eat, when to eat, none of that stuff. But I am here to help you with your mindset around food. I'm here to help you with your mindset around your body and realizing that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There is gray. There are multiple amounts of colors around the rainbow. It doesn't have to be so black and white, And most of all, above all, if I could teach you anything at all, it's to stop beating yourself up over all of it. Over what you eat, over what you didn't eat, over how much you ate, over how much you didn't eat, over what you weigh, over what you look. That is my goal, is to shift your mindset around the way that you start to see yourself. Because it is possible for you to start seeing yourself through the lens of love. It is possible to start seeing yourself through the lens of care and acceptance and trust. You can trust yourself. You can trust your body. and it's worth doing. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What did you think? Did you learn anything new? Are any of these principles something that you feel like you can start applying to your day-to-day life? How can you start to approach your relationship with food in a way that's not stressing you out? Can you pick one of these principles to start working on today? I always, of course, it's good to start in the beginning, and it's good to really realize that we've been continuously fed this lie that diets are going to make us happy and whole and, are going to give us the body that we need or that we want and desire, because I'm here to tell you that 95% of the time they don't work. So that is how you can develop a positive relationship with food. Yep. I will recap all 10 principles on this video. And if you're someone that's like, man, this is going to be really difficult for me to navigate on my own, send me a message. I would love to help you. There's a little flurry. Send me a message. Let's work on a one-on-one consultation call and see how I can help guide you on this journey to intuitive eating. I've personally found it to be so incredibly nurturing and so healing. And y'all, I have food freedom. Food does not occupy the same amount of space as it used to in my mind. Sometimes I even at this point, which I never thought I'd get to, forget to eat. And then I have the problem that, I end up eating a little bit more because I didn't eat enough throughout the day. I'm really thankful for this process. It's helped me get out of the hole of, binge eating, of, throwing up, of having a tumultuous and difficult relationship with food, and as seeing food as bad, seeing myself as bad, and I just wish peace and love for all of you. So yes, I will include the principles on the recap. Please feel free to add any questions or thoughts that you might have into the comments, and I would love to know which one are you going to focus on, which principle you're going to focus on first. So, all right. Well, this has gone long enough. Send me your questions, drop me your, and anything that you might have learned in this video that perhaps you didn't know before, anything that you want to know more about. I didn't go in too much into mindful eating, but it did kind of touch up on that a little bit. But those are the two ways that I approach food, with love, with compassion, with care, or with mindful and intuitive eating, reconnecting ourselves with our bodies. And I want more peace for you. I want more love for you. So I hope you found this video useful. I did see more people actually jumping on today, so that was exciting. Sending you so much love. I hope you have a beautiful Thursday. And tomorrow, get excited because we're going to work on a relationship to our mind and stress. So definitely join us tomorrow. Awesome. Good. Glad you found that helpful. All right, my loves. Have a beautiful Thursday. Stay warm, and I will see you tomorrow.